Can you have both a will and a living trust? Well, you're going to be surprised by this answer because I hear estate lawyers all the time say, a will's good enough, and this is in a probate state. Cannot believe people have a license and can lie to you. It's shocking to me. So I'm bringing Scott Arden, my partner and expert in wills and trusts, to this call and this conversation. So go to generationalwealthsystems.com. You can schedule a time to talk to him about a will and a trust and his team. We have experts going to help you decide what's best for you. The three things we're going to talk about with Scott today, though, is what are the differences between the living trust and the will? And then when I'm going to add in, do you need an irrevocable trust? Because it's another kind of trust. Number two, the components of a living trust and what are you going to need? In fact, I'm going to have him bring the binder, a trust binder, and all the components that you need, including being funded. There's so many times that estate lawyers will set it up, charge you a bunch of money, and then all the documents just be left in a binder because they're not notarized right, they're not funded right, and then you end up going to probate. So that's number three. We're going to talk through the mistakes that we see over and over and over that are made by professionals that are out here on the internet called the bathroom wall. So Scott, welcome to our interview. So I have welcomed back Scott, who is my partner, generationalwealthsystems.com, to talk about a will and a trust. And it is the most frustrating conversation because we hear it all the time. This is in a probate state. I bet once a week, twice a week, Scott, I hear some clients say, I don't need what you have because my lawyer said all I need is a will and it's good enough. Those lawyers should be disbarred in our opinion. So talk about, first of all, the difference between the will and the trust, and then we're just going to continue to deepen why it's critical to have both.
Yeah, absolutely. So a will is a quasi-estate planning vehicle. However, a will only comes into effect upon your passing. Plus, a will still go through the probate process and is easily contestable, meaning that if there's a family member whom maybe you haven't seen in 20 years and they feel I wasn't named out as a beneficiary of this estate, I'm entitled to something here, they can contest the estate. Whereas a trust, a properly structured living trust or comprehensive estate plan will bypass the probate process. It becomes effective should you go into what's called living probate, meaning you're unable to speak for yourself or, sign contracts. In addition to, it's not contestable. A trust cannot be contested. It is clearly defined in the legal agreement that states so-and-so gets these assets and at this specific period in time. So there's major differences between a will and a trust. Again, having a comprehensive estate plan is absolutely critical.
So Scott, we talked about the difference between a will and a trust. Show a trust binder, for example. What does a trust binder look like? Like kind of flip through very gently what those tabs are. Like that is a very active trust versus the will is part of the trust. So when someone says you can die and everything's going to be fine because you have a will, the will in my mind, the way I describe it in very casual conversation is it's all your stuff, right? It's who's going to get these rings, who's going to get the jewelry, who's going to get the cars, who's going to get the stuff, not about the estate and the assets.
Yeah. So how I actually like to put it is it's kind of like a treasure map. It shows your beneficiaries where you buried all your treasure. Yeah. So in a comprehensive estate plan or living trust with us, there's various different sections. You have your durable power of attorney for not only healthcare, but your advance directive. You've got your durable power of attorney for assets. That's in this one section. This is the nomination of conservator or guardian. So again, should you become incapacitated, who's going to be speaking for you? The next one is the living will. So again, what can you do with the assets while you're alive, right? Then you have your final instructions. It goes then into the trust certification. So again, these are the documents that need to be given to the bank to show that there is a valid living trust put in place. Then you've got the complete living trust. Now, I've seen a lot of these and reviewed a lot of living trusts, and they usually only come out to be about 5 pages. We've got about, I'd say 60 of them here. Then it goes to your abstract of trust. So basically a brief synopsis of what the trust consists of. Then it goes into your special or assignment of personal furnishings and effects, special estate preservation vehicles, the pour over will or the last will and testament. So these are the documents that say this is how the assets are going to be dispersed as I've instructed. In addition, the pour over will, let's say, for instance, you're in process of buying a property and something happens to you. The pour over will actually go out and capture the asset and bring it back in as part part of the estate so as to avoid the probate process. So then it goes on to the guardian of minor or disabled children. Who's going to be taking care of your children if they're still minors or they have special needs upon your passing? So it's absolutely critical. This, like I said, the treasure map to say, this is what I want to have happen, and this is where I buried all my treasures.
Absolutely. I'm glad you got that out, and I'll show you. So those of you who just, are so right about your lawyer being wrong, you probably want to get rid of them. And you want to head over to generationalwealthsystems.com. Click on the link, get signed up for it's a free session just to do an initial assessment, where you are, what you want. And clearly, if you want generational wealth, you have got to get an executed trust, and maybe just not one. I know a lot of families have 3, 5. And then before we actually go into a few more gifts and some what I'm going to call ninja strategies around how many trusts should you have, I need you to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, click the notification button. Be here 5 days a week. It is a channel that I think your 5-year-old should be on. And you should be here, starts a family conversation. So your kids aren't just surprised. I call it the surprise basket, right? That's how many people plan their estate. They die and no one talks about a thing. And then it's a surprise basket at the, reading of the will, if there's a trust, and then the kids go to war. So make sure you're sharing these videos. Go to our search bar. Scott and I have a lot of videos here on our YouTube channel about not opinions, like this is the correct thing. It's a worldwide problem to end up in probate. But Scott, talk a little bit about, we're pretty aggressive, I got to say, when it comes to generational wealth, because we watch here in our own Northern Nevada Valley, how many billionaire families are currently being broke up. I know five of the billionaire families are being decimated. And I know the county because I live in it. And it is shocking to watch what kids do to each other when mom and dad pass. And some of these kids and the grandkids, I said, the grandpa who created all this wealth would rise from the grave and kill these kids, but they will and the trust were not clear. And then the kids fought. So aggressive opinion would be, if you have 5 kids with very different opinions and lifestyles and behaviors, get 5, get 1 each. Just do it for them so they don't decimate your wealth later. What's your thought on that, Scott? It's aggressive, but it is the answer to families that are not going to get along and go to war. Like I know families in part of our big table, they're just waiting for their parents to die to sue the other family members. It's just disgusting. You and I see it all the time.
Absolutely. So yeah, again, we have to really evaluate the dynamic of the family, but it's really critical that if you've got different, as you said, different types of beneficiaries, they live completely different lives. We should do what's called trust stacking, is you would have the one primary trust, and then the beneficiaries would be individual trusts named out for those beneficiaries. Because again, if we're designating this while they're still minor children, as they get older, the lifestyles are going to change. One might be, excel at life. One might go down the wrong path, right? So being able to design that right now is absolutely critical to create a proper generational wealth structure for the family.
What other mistakes and just what I would say costly mistakes or misconceptions do you see when it comes to a will and a trust, and just estate planning is really, the broader topic?
Well, one of the biggest things, mistakes that I've seen in reviewing trusts is one of them, the trust doesn't get notarized. Therefore, it doesn't become effective. So, something happens, the trust's not effective, it'll go through probate. The second thing is I've seen trusts that have been notarized for many, many years, but they've never been funded, right? They've never had the assets put directly into the trust. That's why it's critical. And that's what we help. We make sure that those assets are funded into the trust. And then the other big thing is, I formed a trust 10 years ago, right? Well, when was the last time it was looked at? Because have the assets changed? Have you moved residences? Have you maybe had a falling out with who you designated as the trustee, or have circumstances changed for the beneficiaries? So these are a lot of the big errors, I would say, mistakes that people make when they use trusts for their estate planning.
Absolutely. There are so many. So again, go to generationalwealthsystems.com and grab any free gift that we have. We have a lot of content, a lot of videos. Most importantly, though, I want you to grab a strategy session with Scott or one of his senior team members and just walk through what you need to do. We're at the end of Q4, which is the end of 2023 filming this. Do not let this year go by without the right structure, and head into next year and hope it's all going to be magically okay. You'll blow 2023, I'd call it. So don't blow the year. Get a call and a strategy session right now with Scott. Click on the link and come over to the Millionaire Intensive so you learn what it takes to actually live this corporate life and start setting your families up way, way, way before everybody gets sick and dying. Set them up for generational wealth while they're alive and healthy. And Scott and I are already doing that. So we have younger kids and they're they're already in process of getting all this training and transfer. So do not wait. Scott, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
And anything else you want to offer or add to the group?
No, that just head on over, grab our, enter your information, and let's have a strategy session. We look forward to working with you.
Absolutely. And the rest of you, if you ever have a question, 24/7, we're at askloral.com, ASKLORAL. Ask a question, make a request, and we'll be right back tomorrow morning.